right, so ladies and gentlemen, if we look at what we're dealing with all of these problems is we want to find the equation. So we want them to be in y equals ab to the x. Okay. So let's look at the first one. We've got a equals 6 and our point 1 comma 4.8. And we want to plug them in. Now, 1 is what letter in our formula? X. And so 4.8 would be y. All right, and we have a, so let's plug them in. So I'm going to have 4.8 equals a times b to the first. Okay? So let's try to solve this. Anything to the first power is what? If I say 3 to the first power, what do you have? So b to the first power would just be b. So I have 4.8 equals 6b. How am I going to get b by itself? Divide. And you're going to end up with 0.8 equals b. And so let's rewrite the problem. So we have the nice equation. So we have y equals a is 6 times b is 0.8 to the x is our final answer. Okay, so let's think about these steps that we have so far. First, we put in y, x, and a. Second, we try to get b as small as possible and then solve and get b by itself. And then finally, we plug it back into our original problem, our original equation.
Would we make that x a 1?
No.
No.
Why would you do that?
To the first power.
Why would we do that here if we want to have an equation?
Okay. I didn't know because you plugged in this.
Right, because we had to
Okay.
solve for b. All right, let's look at number 2. Thank you, Ms. Parma. All right, let's look at number 2. We've got a equals 1 times 2 to the 0.25. Ooh, this one's a little bit tougher. Okay, I need everybody looking up here, so why don't you guys move your seats if you need to, but I need to see everybody's lovely shiny face. You need to have out a pen or pencil and be writing this down. So let's move right now. Everybody move so that they're looking up here. Keep going. All right. Okay, so let's plug these in. We've got y equals ab to the x. So I'm going to put y in for 0.25. This is x, this is y. 0.25 equals a times b squared. All right, let's look at this first. This is a little bit harder. We don't know if something's squared, right? What's 3 squared? 9. So it's going to change whatever b is. So we can't just get rid of that squared. Well, we can get rid of that 1, right? If we divide both sides by 1, we end up with 0.25 equals b squared. All right, does anybody have any ideas? How are we going to get b by itself? If we've got something squared, how do we... We can't divide because there's nothing to divide. But what would I divide by, Jasmine? What do you think? You what, both sides? We can't square both sides because if we get 2 squared, we get 2 to the 4th. Yes? Multiply by 0.5 is not going to get rid of that squared next to the b. We're going to have 0.5 b squared.
B2 from both sides?
Can't do that. What is everybody, you guys have never heard of square roots? Okay, whenever you have, oh yeah. Okay, whenever you have something squared, to undo the squared, you take the square root. What is the square root of 0.25? What's the square root of 25? 5. Okay, so let's try this. Let's take your calculator out. What's the square root of 0.25? Anybody have any guesses? What do you think it's going to be? 0.05. Nope, I get 0.5. Okay, now that I have b, I can plug it back in to get my original equation. Y equals a is 1 times 0.5b to the x. Questions? You feel okay about it? Okay, I'm going to give you an even harder one. You ready? All right, we're on number 3. We've got 0, 8 and 3, 64. Uh-oh. Can somebody tell me what my A is going to be? Oh, I did skip 3. I'm doing 4. Thank you. Good. We can do one easier one before this hard one. A equals 4, and B is negative 2 to the first power. Why don't we try this one on our own? Because this is very similar to what we've done before. Why don't we try this one on our own? At least try to set it up so that the only thing you have missing is B. But everybody can do that. Put it into y equals mx plus b, where the only thing you have missing is b. Okay, so let's try this. Let's see if you guys got the right answer. This is x, this is y. So we get 1 equals a times b to the x. Does everybody get that? If you're having trouble, you gotta let me know. Okay, I need b by itself. So what's the first step I can do? Divide by 4. These cancel, and I get 1/4 equals b to the negative 2. Uh-oh. Yeah, but it's a negative. So I heard it. We flip it. Reciprocal. Good. This looks all crazy to me. I've got 2 fractions. When I've got 2 fractions with an equal sign in between, what is the first thing that you think to do? Multiply, but what kind of multiply? Cross multiply. 1 times 4 gives us 4. 1 times b squared gives us b squared. Okay, now what do I do?
Square root.
Square root, that's the word we're looking for. So we get 2 equals b. All right, so let's plug this back in. So I get y equals 1 times 2 to the x. Anybody have questions so far about how to do this? Feel pretty good? Okay, let's move on to number 4. Yes? Do you have a question? What do you mean for B? You okay? All right. Number 4. We've got 0, 8.
We have a question.
Yes, what was her question? For this one, can we do what? For number 4? Yes. What about number 4? Nope. Because that would give us the slope. But remember, when we look at our exponential function, are our graphs in a straight line? No, so we can't do the slope. So that's a really good question, though, because I think a lot of people would think to do that. All right. I need to find my A. What's my A in this case? Let's look at this real quick. It's not our slope. We've got y equals ab to the x. What happens when I stick a 0 in for x? B becomes 1, so I just get a times 1. So what would a have to be? Let's look at this. I plug in 0. I'm going to plug in 0 and 8 for x and y. So my y is 8 equals a b to the 0. B to the 0 power gives us 1. Okay, what times 1 gives me 8? 8. So A has to be 8. So I get y equals 8b to the x. Let's plug in this problem for x and y. Okay, so what's the first thing I do? I've got to get b by itself. Oops, I didn't plug in the x. Divide. How many times does 8 go into 64? 8. All right, this looks really weird. I can't square root it. What can I do? Cube root it. That's exactly right. All right, what times what gives me 8? You have to multiply it 3 times.
2 times 2. Or 4 times 2.
Yes. Awesome. So we get y equals 8 times 2 to the x. That one was tricky with that cube root going on. Yes?
On the last one that you did, shouldn't the first number be 1 instead of 1?
What, I wrote 1,
Yeah.
but my a value is 4? Yes, thank you. Very good catch. Very good catch. Are we ready to go to 5? Anybody have any more questions or found Miss Murphy's mistakes? Okay. Let's look at 5. For 5, I've got a equals 5, and x is 1, y is 15. So I'm just going to stick this in, yes? You want to know if you did this one right? Okay, tell me what you did. Equals 5 times b to 1? Yes, that's perfect. What is our next step once we plug it into the equation? Divide. 3 equals b to the first power. Anything to the first power is what? Itself?
Yeah.
So b has to equal 3. Let's plug this in. Y equals 5 times 3 to the x. All right. We've got one more like this, and then we've got a graph and a word problem. So let's do this last one. For number 6, I've got a equals 5 to 11.25. So that's my x, that's my y. I'm always plugging it into that new equation we have, y equals ab to the x. So I have 11.25 equals a, which is 5, times b squared. So, ladies and gentlemen, what is my first step? Divide. Good. Divide both sides by 5, and we get 2.25 equals b squared. What is my second step? Square root it. Good. You guys got it. So b equals 1.5. What is my last step? You just plug it in. So you got a question, ladies? You're good? Okay. Let's move to the graph. So our first question with the graph is we've got a whole bunch of points, and we only want a and 1 point. Can you tell me, from looking at this graph, what a is? Yes? 9. Sola Asia, can you tell me how you knew that answer?
What's going told me that the number next to the lowest number is always
A always crosses which axis? Y. Okay? When x is 0, you can find your A every single time, too. So we have 0, 9. We know that. All right, what point do we want to pick? We can pick any of these. There are easier ones to pick. Which points do you want? 1, 3.